working? Yes, it is.
I made fucking pasta for dinner with some sauce that was like way in the back of the fridge. And it smelled fine, but then I fully made it. Like I put like sausage in it. I like did this whole thing. And then when it was getting ready, I'm like, I should taste this. And I tasted it and it tasted like shellfish. And I was like, I don't think we should eat this. But I ate 2 noodles before I decided. I was like, did I just get a weird bite? Is it the sausage that I put in there, you know? And then I ate another bite and I'm like, no, this is bad. And I just put it all down the garbage disposal and started again.
Oh, no.
But I was like, oh my God. Why do you think you're going to have diarrhea?
Because I had like a gnocchi and pork thing and I never eat pork. So I like...
Oh.
But it was so fucking... I mean, I do. I'll eat, you know, like sausage and stuff. And that's what it was. It was like a sausage situation.
Yeah.
And it's just... my stomach is really bubbly, so...
Yeah, mine... Also, I think I'm getting my period, so it's also like period cramps, which also periods give you diarrhea also. So it's like the double diarrhea.
I love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, I almost ate ice cream for the trifecta, but I said I'll wait till after.
Yeah, like you want to ensure that your diarrhea comes after the recording.
Yeah. I like that after work diarrhea.
Oh my God. Oh, geez. Should we do this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hello. Oh my God. It's been too long. We're a mess.
Well, too long doing this.
What?
But I saw you a bunch during the break, but just like too long doing business.
Well, no, I mean like all my shit was like not together.
Yeah.
You know?
It just took Erin like a full 20 minutes to set up her situation. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, we don't usually. Yeah, when we do Patreon stuff, it's like a little bit of a different setup. So I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, what's up?
Also, that
Erin?
was a full 2 weeks ago. This is Nicole. Welcome to Dude That's Fucked Up, the podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
We're back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I am just so happy to be back.
Oh my God, it's so fun. It's I didn't want to do the work part of it today, but I know. I'm having fun now. So
yeah. I was saying like doing the research for this episode made me a little sad.
Me too. I know.
Like I got bummed out.
I know. I got really sad too. And I was just like, am I going to cry during this? It's possible.
I know. It's still possible. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, we had, so much stuff has happened. Like we've been off for the past month. We just, we just have been, doing summer stuff. And I feel like a lot of stuff has happened since then.
Oh my God. So many things happened. We were gone for a long month. It wasn't like just 4 Wednesdays. It was like a full 5 Wednesdays.
Yeah. So sorry if you missed us. We missed you guys or talking at you guys. And we've been on our Patreon Discord. So it's like we've been still in the mix, but it's just been weird not, having an episode every week. So I hope everybody's good, and I hope you have had a pretty good summer so far, despite all the fucking crazy shit that's going on in the world. My God,
dude, what crazy weather, crazy events. Mitch McConnell keeps glitching.
He's just. I saw somebody I don't know. I forget if it was on Instagram or on Twitter or what, but they were like, every time Mitch McConnell freezes, it's like he's getting a glimpse of what happens when he dies and goes to hell.
Oh, because he looks so scared.
Yeah, because he's like, it's so awful. I don't know what is happening with that man, but do I care? No.
I care in that I hope it's over soon. whatever that means for him.
He did, like what? Like,
I hope he's retired or what have you.
It's the craziest thing that these old people, like, no disrespect to old people, but like when I am in my 80s, I do not want to be picking up a pen. I don't want to be fucking doing shit. I'll keep my brain sharp by like being, I don't know, playing crossword puzzles and brain games and shit and talking to people.
I want to have my little hobbies. I want to go into my little art studio and shit, but I'm not going to be like working for the government.
No, I'm not going to be making decisions on behalf of tens of thousands, if not millions of people.
Yeah, no thanks.
The fuck?
I know. It's unhinged in a bad way. I like unhinged things in a good way. It's a bad way. This
is bad. We're all suffering for it. Like,
yeah, totally.
Please just retire. It's okay. Like,
what is wrong with that generation? Is it because of like fucking World War II and the Great Depression and shit, and their parents like passed down trauma? Like, stop working. Stop. Give the jobs to younger people who need to fucking pay for their families to survive.
It's just like such a God complex mixed with like the, you know, weird American like work ethic of like killing yourself over a fucking job. Like,
I know.
What are we doing? You know?
I know.
Ugh.
I mean, I'm doing it right. I'm just working part-time and doing this. It's easy.
It sucks, man. It's like, oh, you either become a politician and become a corrupt garbage person and you're like totally fine because you have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
After like squeezing, you know, like working, basically getting all the things passed that you want that you get your side hustle from.
Yeah.
And then, or you're just like a normal person and you're just like, I'm just trying to survive. Hello, please.
Oh my God.
Please, government, don't let me die from a highly curable and treatable illness.
Yeah. A hangnail.
Yeah.
If I die from a hangnail, I'm going to be fucking pissed. Also, does Mitch McConnell have like a gambling problem or something? Like, why is he like, he has money, right? Like, what is the secret what is the thing we all don't know of why he hasn't retired yet when he's clearly having like medical emergencies and they're on camera and he's not probably just having them then?
No,
like,
I
there
think
must be happening all the time.
Yeah. Some people are saying he's having like the mini strokes or whatever. I don't think it's like fair to like diagnose somebody over the television, but like whatever it is, it's clearly not good and it's scary. And it's like, if that was my grandpa or my dad or something, I'd be in shambles trying to get them to stop and fucking chill out. Like,
true, if that's your grandpa and what if he dies like on TV?
That's
so
and, like,
upsetting.
Traumatizes everybody.
I know. Oh my God.
It's traumatizing just watching this happen to him because it's like as much as I hate him, as much as I think he will not see heaven and will go do not pass go, do not collect $200 straight to hell, and he sucks ass as a human, I still don't want to see,
and he'll be sucking ass in hell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I still don't want to see a person, another human being, like having a struggling, you know,
in distress.
Like, it's horrible. So
it really humanizes him for me, which I have a problem with.
Speaking of never seeing heaven, us.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm fine. I don't think it's there.
Yeah. Oh my God. But aside from Mitch McConnell glitching like twice within like a fucking month, basically. Anything good? Oh, I took Jack to Disneyland. DJ and I took Jack to Disneyland while we were on break. It was so nice.
Yeah.
Very delightful. I think namely because we waited till he was 5 and we didn't bring Damien. So we could we could go on rides, and like Jack is like a trooper and he's cool, and like went on all the rides that literally every ride that he was tall enough for, we went on.
Yeah, which is like all the rides almost.
All the good ones, yeah.
Yeah.
The only ride that he wasn't tall enough for was the roller coaster in California.
Yeah, the Incredicoaster.
Incredicoaster, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. And then Pete and I got to come meet you guys and have so much fun. It was so special.
It was so much fun. That was really, really cool.
Yeah. And your kids had, well, Jack had a birthday and Damien's almost had a birthday, but they had like a birthday party. That was really fun.
Yeah, well, we had a joint party for the boys. It was really fun, really hectic, really crazy.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it was, yeah, it was so busy. There was a woman who was doing like airbrush tattoos, and all the adults were just getting hella tattoos.
It was so wild.
It was so fun. It was just a good time, and it was outside, and it was like, you know, the weather wasn't too hot, and it was just so nice to like hang out and have fun.
It was great. And like, it was just like very kid oriented, you know, it was just like, what does a kid want to do? They want to they're not going to eat. I don't want to make food.
Yeah, no, they want to play. They want to play. Focused. Yeah.
They want snacks. They want to jump in the pool. They want to like go ham in a fucking moon bounce.
Yeah.
Done, you know?
Great.
So
it was perfect.
It was so fun. Yeah, we had a great time, and it was lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, and then of course, back to like sad times. We lost some celebrities in the past month that there was like a lot of people I think were hit pretty hard by Sinead O'Connor dying. She was like such a like fucking punk, like cool fucking person who just like never compromised her beliefs and was like, I don't know, was like an intense cool person. And I don't know, we need people like that in the world. As much as they fucking make it uncomfortable for other people, it's like those truths need to be said. And so she was a definite truth teller, and didn't give a fuck about how she came across. And
so I didn't even know, like, I didn't really know anything about her, you know, until she died, and people were talking about like I knew she like ripped the picture of the Pope, and it was like a protest on SNL and stuff, and I was like, oh, interesting. Like, I knew she was an interesting person and obviously very talented, but I didn't understand really or ever like look into how she was like ostracized and got in a lot of trouble for that, and was like very pro abortion for Ireland, and like trying to help, you know, trying to help with civil rights in her country. And so that was really fascinating to me. And then, you know, it was like, oh man, that's so sad that this woman I never even realized was ostracized, you know. And it's kind of like what has happened to a lot of women in the 80s and 90s, honestly, like that dared to speak out about anything. They're just kind of like crushed. So
agreed. She was a very special person, very interesting person. And and then Bob Barker just also recently passed away.
I thought he was already dead.
I know, a lot of people did. I thought I like didn't know, and then he passed away at 99. So that's like, he lived a long life, but like I feel like he was such a big part of my childhood. You know, just watching Price is Right like every single morning that I could. Like, when you're homesick from school.
Yes.
It's like
the best.
You get a ginger ale, you get your saltines, you get your fucking blanket on the couch, and you are locked in watching Price is Right. I swear to God, if I ever went on Price is Right, I feel like an expert. Like,
you should go on. It's here.
I know, but I don't want to stand in line.
I know. No, it's like tape all day, and they tape like multiple. It's like one studio audience for like a whole week's worth of shows, so you're there for like a while. Ugh, lines, gross.
I know.
But he was definitely. I when Pete told me that, I had to be like, are you sure it's not like when Gene Wilder quote unquote dies every few years, and everyone's like, oh no, Willy Wonka died, and you're like, He's been dead for a while.
Yeah, a while now.
Yeah. I was like, are you sure it's not one of those things? He's like, no. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he was like, I feel like his, I think it's like one of those things of where once the news hits, it's like all of the news outlets have this like perfectly crafted obituary.
Yeah, yeah.
Where it's like very comprehensive. And it's because it's like, this man is 99 years old. Yeah. It could happen at any moment. Like, we got to have this on standby, New York Times or whatever. Like,
I feel like once you reach a certain age as a celebrity, yeah, there's already an obituary for you already queued up, especially if you're like a super famous person, you know?
Yeah.
Like, know what the thing I thought of next was and made me so sad? I was like, oh no, is the next person to die Dick Van Dyke? I'll be so sad.
That man has been through it.
Yeah.
He is old too.
He's very old. Yeah. I think he's quite old.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just like this generation of people that,
yeah,
you know, it's such a privilege to age and like grow into old age like this. Like Bob Barker did, and he was such an advocate for, you know, making sure like the animal population was controlled. Like his famous line was, have your pets spayed and neutered at the end of every show.
Oh.
Yeah, he was like very animal rights like activist minded. He like refused to, he used to be the Miss Universe pageant host. And he resigned when they refused to take there was like a thing that they did where they had like the women come out in fur coats.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I don't
like that.
I don't like that. Like, fur is not the one.
Fur is murder.
Fur is murder. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, I'm good. Like I think they stopped for like one pageant and then they like brought it back and he's like, all right, bye. So
good for him.
Yeah.
I love someone with conviction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think the biggest loss, the biggest celebrity loss, and I think in our personal opinion, maybe all year, and this happened, it happened at the end of July, or it was like it was like July 30, I think 31st or something. But we'd already gone on break when this happened. I think this is like one of the biggest losses that we've had in a long time is that of Paul Reubens. AKA Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
And so we're going to dedicate this episode to him and all the weirdness and loveliness that he was.
Oh, yeah. It was, I know I cried. It was weird. I was like, why am I crying? But also I think I was emotional because of how all of my friends reacted.
Yeah.
You know, like all of my friends were so sad too. And I was like, oh, yeah, because like he was our childhood and he was such a nostalgia hit. And like I'm sure this is true for you as well, but it's like that's one of my earliest memories is like crawling into my parents' bed, you know, on like a Saturday morning, and they'd put Pee-wee's Playhouse on for me, and me and my dad would just like giggle and laugh, and you know, my mom was into it too, but my dad loved it.
It was like such a like niche and a period of time. It's like you either were into it or you weren't when you were a kid, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's it was like you either were watching Pee-wee's Playhouse or like, you know, Care Bears or something. You know?
Yeah.
And I think it's just like it was a very Pee-wee's Playhouse was like a very specific, very like millennial specific, I feel like. And like Gen X kind of like vibe that I just like. I think we kind of all like I think you were gonna say we all built our like humor and comedic sensibilities around.
Yeah, like our little personalities were like formed from that.
Just like the weird sayings that he had. I know you are, but what am I? Like if you love it so much, why don't you marry it?
Yeah.
Like the fruit salad.
Just like having just even the aesthetic. Like think about how like what a snapshot in time his set was, and how a lot of things right after that were followed, like fall into the category. Like Lisa Frank is very Pee-wee's Playhouse, you know, like they're like very colorful, very bold, and the 80s were that in general, but also like cartoonish and surreal and weird.
I feel like that's like an aesthetic that's like coming back around in trend, you know, and it's like,
yes,
I fucking love it. I'm like, oh,
it's and it's very camp. Like
it's very camp. It's very like, it's very just maximalist and just colorful and fun and irreverent. And that was the set of the show. And it was just like, it very much appealed to a kid's sensibility. And I think one of the things about Pee-wee's Playhouse that he had said was like, he did not set out to make it like an educational show by any means. It was just simply for kids to like, for silliness and to like, for kids to like experience creativity and art and like weirdness in a way that was like accessible, you know, and I don't know, and like spoke to, I think your dad loved it. Like I think, you know, like a lot of adults loved it. It was layered. Yeah.
There was jokes for adults in it. It's kind of like, I read somewhere today, like it's what Pixar does now, where there are jokes that are sometimes a little naughty that a kid won't notice. And nobody, you know, on paper, it's fine. But it's like culturally, we know what the inference is, and then an adult will laugh at it. And that's kind of also what Pee-wee's Playhouse was. It was like, my dad loved it because he was getting the kind of like, you know, naughtier jokes, and I loved it just because it was loud and colorful and silly. So you know, it's like it was something for everyone. It
was so great. I feel like when I think of growing up in the 80s, I think what a lot of people don't understand about growing up in the 80s, like for some of my first like real, you know, sentient moments where there was like a lot of browns and ugly shag carpet. And then when Pee-wee's Playhouse came around, I mean, it was like the beginning of the 90s. And it was like this bright breath of fresh air where it was just like, boom, in your face. And it was like so loud and fun and like boisterous in the best way possible. And it was just like, oh, this is it. I don't know. And so when I think of that, like growing up, that was like, it was like a light switch like flipped on and everything was bright and rainbow and Technicolor. Watching that show. I don't know.
It was also, well, it's also like hard as a kid, you know, you have to like listen to your parents and do the things they want you to do, and you don't really get to pick out your own stuff. And you know, like I'm sure every kid wants to color the walls of their room and have big colorful things. You can't really do that. It's kind of like what you're saying, you know, and then you watch the show and that's all it is. Like there's no boring bed and comforter, and you know, it's like all fun and exciting, and it's like that's what you want as a kid. You want to live in that show, in that set, because it's just so fun.
I mean, I want to live there now.
I know. Also, I feel like my aesthetic, I think I just, you know, it's like peeling back the layers too, like as we age, where it's just like I'm fine settling into things I like, even if they don't fit the norm or they don't fit the current trend or what
someone our age is supposed to be into.
And so I'm getting really into these artists and stuff, and I'm starting to like buy weird stuff that it's just like, I like this. I want to put it in my house. Like I'm
unapologetic about your like, things that you want to surround yourself with.
We fucking painted that wall black in our bedroom. I was like, I want to paint our wall black. And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, well, let's just do it. Who cares? Like, we could always change it back. Like, it doesn't matter. And it looks so cool. And then Pete loved it so much. And then he put, like, weird lights in there. And now it's, like, a weird, like, kind of metal.
Sex dungeon.
Yeah, well, it's a sex dungeon. But, no, it's, like, kind of, like, goth and metal. And, like, it's so cool. And I'm like, I love this so much.
Like, if it were up to me, I would literally have every room in my house like a different theme.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of work, but like, you know, I like, maybe I'll start with like a bathroom and make it like wild, you know, just go crazy. But like, yeah, it's just like that. Yeah, being intentional and like healing your inner child.
Yes.
And going back to this like world of like Pee-wee's Playhouse is where it kind of all started. This aesthetic, this way of interacting with like, because like a lot of the stuff on the set was like inanimate objects that were alive, and like it was so like there was nothing that wasn't, and I think it inspired so many like future kids shows, you know, like I see like influences in, you know, I watch a lot of kids shit now that I fucking hate, except for Bluey. That's the only thing that I like
Erin
gladly
loves Bluey.
watch.
Yeah.
Jack finally got into it. Like I'd been hoping he'd like want to watch it.
Yeah.
And he now is obsessed, and we've watched like all the seasons like multiple times now since he's been on like summer break. But anyway, but like I see like Blue's Clues and stuff like that, and it's like this is a poor imitation of Pee-wee's Playhouse, and it could never, you know.
Yeah. Oh, it's not trying to be that, but
I know.
It is like it feels like this is wanting to be that, but it's not even close. And like, why are you even trying?
And it was like, you know, at the time, Sesame Street was like the rage, and I feel like Pee-wee's Playhouse like kind of piggybacked on that, where it was like, you're not talking down to children. You are meeting them where they are and just being fun and silly with them. Yeah. And not trying to like teach them anything, which was like like I said, kind of a breath of fresh air. So yeah. Anyway, so Paul Reubens is the man behind Pee Wee Herman, and he was born Paul Rubenfeld. We know him and love him as Pee Wee Herman. Yeah. And I believe he's like, and I'm speaking for you too, but he's a huge comedic influence in our lives for sure.
I mean, like you said, like, I know you are, but one of my, or just, ha, or, you know, just like doing the laugh. Like, that's how I learned to be funny.
Yeah. Paging Mr. Herman. Never fails to make me laugh.
Oh my God. I was doing it earlier, and I think I'm so good at it. And I like was doing it for Pete, full commitment. And he was like, like he was so, because we were watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure earlier. Aww. Yeah. And so and it's like right, we almost finished it. So we got like right to that point, and I was like, paging Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, you have a telephone call at the front desk. Paging Mr. Herman. I just love how he moves his mouth and his tongue. Like, it's just so funny. And also, like, watching that movie back, I mean, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but like, he's so funny. His facial expressions, and it makes sense. I mean, he's like a very well-trained comedian by the time he makes this movie. But I was noticing things I hadn't ever really noticed, and appreciating things I'd never really appreciated. And yeah,
I need to watch. I haven't watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure in a really long time. I need to watch it. Because I need to know if Jack can watch it.
Yeah, there's parts that are scary for kids.
Like Large Marge is like scary, and
or
like
the clown when his bike gets stolen.
Yeah, there's
or like
a couple
the clown surgeons. Yeah, like there's. Oh my God. But okay, wait, I have to tell you this before we go any further, because I thought it was so funny. There's so many funny lines in it that just are like so stupid. Like when Simone and him are in the dinosaur and they're watching the sunrise, and she's like, "Do you have any dreams, Pee-wee?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm rolling a giant." He's like, "I'm alone. I'm rolling a giant donut down the street and a snake in a vest." And then she like cuts him off. Like, no, not that kind of dream. And I'm like, all those little like I'm alone. I'm rolling a giant donut down the street and a snake in a vest. That's what that line is. And I laughed so hard. I was like, this is so funny, these specifics. What a funny joke, too. Like, she's having this sincere moment, and he then describes in an earnest and sincere way a dream that he has.
A literal dream, yeah.
And that is also why the character works so well. Like, he's teasing half the time and he's very sincere half the time. And like you said, he's never talking down to children because he's not. I think when people first watched it, they're like, does he have like a a learning thing? Like why is he an adult that's acting like a child? Is he like stunted in some way? What is happening? And it's like, no, he just is like embracing his like inner child. And it's just being sincere.
And it's just like, it's that thing of where when you watch a movie, you just suspend belief and it doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to be like this all perfect, Marvel movie or whatever all the time. It's just silliness, and that's what it is,
Oh, yeah.
So
I love it. I just want to watch it in real time right now while we do this.
I know. Yeah, I think he was the epitome of somebody who was just so undeniably comedically brilliant. It was impossible for him to not become famous. Which his entire like his life story, like leading up to it, is just like it doesn't seem probable. Like in today's world, this I don't know. Like I think he would still make it. You know what I mean? Like even as hard as it is.
No, because it's not even that he's like this great comedic talent. He's an artistic talent. Yeah. He has a vision and he's able to execute that vision. And that's because he was a good, clear communicator and a kind person. And he wasn't doing this stuff to be famous or to like, he was doing it because he genuinely loved to do these things and execute these visions and make people laugh and give people joy.
Yeah.
Like he was just a joy seeker and a joy giver. And like, that's what like, especially Pee-wee's Big Adventure is. It's just joy.
Yeah.
And fun.
I think like as kids, I don't know how, like, I'm sure a lot of adults at the time probably like saw this and were like, what is this like obnoxious shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't like, it was just too silly for them to get. And I think like our sensibilities as children or as, anybody who was watching it who like understood the comedy, it was like, it was so genuine, I guess.
Yeah.
Like there was something like so authentic about him and the way he would play this character. So anyway,
good acting.
It's good acting. It's amazing. I mean, I wish he would have been in more stuff. We'll talk about why that was in a little bit, but like, he was born into like a pretty straight-laced Jewish family. His dad was actually a fighter pilot. He like basically helped start the Israeli Air Force.
Dang. And
his dad is part of the like Air Force team that basically saved the Israeli army during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War.
Oh my God.
Which is wild. Like it's just like a little tidbit that I like fixated on, of course, while I was like researching this. I was like, holy fucking shit.
Oh my God.
Like this man came from that. It's so wild.
That's how that happens though. You know what I mean? It's like your parent is on one end of the spectrum and then you find yourself on the other end.
Yeah. And he just like growing up, his parents were just like normal, like owned a lamp shop and were like, pretty, there was successful, like middle class people, but he just was like on another level already, I think, from his family. So it's very interesting.
Like gravitating. Well, so he was born in the Peekskills in New York, but then his family moved to Sarasota when he was like a young child and started their like lamp store business or whatever, and just were like a normal family, like middle class family, just doing their thing. But the weird thing was that in Sarasota at the time, P.T. Barnum's circus would come every winter into their neighborhood and like wait out the winter with the families and animals that they traveled with. Yeah, like their act, and they'd like get
was like
ready
their
for their next
home.
season.
Yeah.
They're like in rehearsals all winter or whatever. And so some of his neighbors were like the
circus performers.
Yeah, like the people getting shot out of cannons and shit. Like,
Jesus.
And he was fascinated, and so he'd get to go and watch, and like you can just see how that's an influence on his sensibilities. The circus, of course. I mean, Big Top Pee-wee, of course, but also during this time, he was a huge fan of the very like pioneering children's show Howdy Doody, which for anyone who doesn't know, that was kind of like a quote unquote variety type show with a puppet. There's like a man, and then Howdy Doody's the puppet, and they, there's like a live kid audience, and they interact, and there's segments and stuff, and that my dad loved that too, and I'm sure your dad did too. And it ran from like the 40s to the 60s, so it was like, and it was, we didn't have a lot of programming.
No, that was then. Like one of the only.
That's
it's like
for kids.
Kids watched that, and like the Lone Ranger, and you know,
because Sesame Street didn't come till the 70s, right? So they had Howdy Doody, but also, okay, this is a fucking side tangent, but I had to bring it up because it is wild. Today I was like, okay, I'm gonna Google Howdy Doody because I want like a more official description of the show instead of like a variety type children's show. I didn't get it because I got very distracted when I saw that all, like when you Google stuff, it's like news comes up first. Yeah. Okay, some asshole in Nebraska was pulled over literally hours ago from right now.
I saw this too.
Oh my god, he had a pet bull, like the animal, a bull, a full grown pet bull
with huge horns, like long horn steer. Yeah,
and he had like modded his car, and it was just like a sedan.
It's an Oldsmobile, I think.
He modded it so that the fucking bull could ride shotgun in his car, and he's been doing it for like the last 7 years. He welded like a piece to the side so the bull could stand on it.
It's like a cage, like before, that like you're at the rodeo before the bulls go out onto the ring. It's like one of those with like,
it's like a cage.
Oldsmobile.
It's like a cage on one of those like ladders at Home Depot that can move around on wheels. It's like a short version of that with like a little cage around it, and he cut off the side of the car so it's like part in the car.
Yeah, he's like half in the car, half in this like cage thing. Oh my god, I was dying at the pictures of
I was like, this, how is this right now? But then I thought, oh, this is like a little wink from Paul Reubens.
I think so.
That's so cool. Like, that's such a sweet
only
little,
because
he would be delighted.
You were researching
Howdy Doody for him.
How much he loved Howdy Doody.
I know.
And then this news story popped up.
Totally wild thing. And I was like, oh my god, that's so cute.
I kind of want to cry, man. That's wow.
I mean, I don't know if it actually is, but it made me feel
I choose to believe it is.
Yeah, it made me feel like, oh, that he would love this little adventure I just went on and be like, and it would inspire him in some way, I feel like.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you could see that as a gag in one of his movies or whatever.
100%.
Yeah. And then I was so sad too because he was distraught when Howdy Doody ended. Like, it was a very like pivotal moment in his life. He was 8 years old, and there's a quote from him, and he said, I remember sitting on the floor of our living room watching the last episode just in tears, crying, sitting there as a really little kid and thinking, what kind of world is this? That like this thing he loved is just done. At baby. 8. And I just love that, like, he during his life had talked about these influences, and how I just appreciate so deeply like how you can see these influences on his work.
Yeah.
Like, and they made him like it's all cowboy stuff and circus stuff. Like,
yeah, it's so
and
wild.
Puppets and like it's so cool to me that you could like see that through line.
I know, it's amazing. He's like, and just like the way he dedicated himself to, like, he was always involved in performing arts in some way, all through school, whatever. I think he wanted to go to Juilliard, but I think he got turned down. And he ended up coming out to LA to go to college.
Good, because Juilliard they would have like beaten out of him what made him unique.
The whimsy.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they would have really classically trained him to be a great theater actor or whatever, and he wouldn't have been able to be so weird.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we would have gotten some version of something and he still would have been famous, but like, who knows how that would have,
who knows
what that path would have done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he like was in LA. He did, he like started to do like comedy stuff, and he landed at Groundlings, which we've been to. We've been to together. We've been to a Groundlings show together, haven't we?
Probably when I was taking classes there when we were like 19 or 20. It's a very famous school, and there's pictures of him up in the lobby, and there's pictures of all the other alumni that came up through like the 80s and 90s, like Will Ferrell, Melissa McCarthy, Sherry O'Terry, Maya Rudolph, Kristen Wiig, Phil Hartman, Dax Shepard. Like, it is more of a recent one, but he talks about it, and I wanted to shout him out because I love him so much. But it's an improv and sketch theater in LA and a school for that. And he was here going to the California Institute of the Arts, but then he just kind of like found the Groundlings and was like, you know, I don't think I need to continue college. I can just go do this. And he did. And it was the hot comedy school in LA before UCB, which is like kind of the now one, but the Groundlings are starting to get back like to their glory days. There's a huge wait list to get into their program, and it's really hard. You have to audition into it and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, like at the Groundlings, you do improv to find characters. Like, that's the thing. You like start with improv and you get good at improv, and then you get to start doing sketch, and you use improv as a tool to find characters to write sketches. That's like what their, like, not their philosophy, but that's like what their style and what their curriculum is. So like, to think that he like discovered Pee-wee on that stage just probably fucking around with people like Phil Hartman and found this funny thing and was able to like nurture it. Yeah, like I have like full body chills.
I know.
Because it's just,
and that you stood on that same stage.
I know. Well, I don't think I have. But I've seen, but I've been there. Yeah.
Being in that
space, yeah. And like and recognizing that it was something special too, because I feel like people maybe aren't aware, like when they're doing this stuff, oh, this would be something interesting, or having a friend call it out to you like, hey, I think this is good, because other characters that started there are like the Spartans, like Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry, the cheerleaders, Spartan cheerleaders from SNL. Elvira came from the Groundlings. Romy and Michelle was like kind of, I think Lisa Kudrow was a Groundling, so like that was kind of developed there. All these amazing characters, and like, yeah, Pee-wee was one of them, and he honed it as a stage show for like a couple years until HBO came, and they were like, we want to give you a special.
That's fucking
the
dope,
dream,
dude.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
The dream.
The fucking dream, dude.
The fucking dream. I think, back in the 80s, like especially the early 80s, HBO was like very like groundbreaking, fledgling. You had to pay for HBO.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was like this. It was like what Netflix was like in the very beginning when it started doing their original shit.
And a lot of stand-up and stage shows like that. I mean, this is not stand-up, but it's, he was performing it like it was as a character, but like that was cheap for them to produce, and they broke so many careers with HBO and all their stand-up specials, and they still do, and so does Netflix. But yeah, I mean, and I think the special did well, but what really was impressive was like when Paul was going to all these late night shows and going and sitting with the hosts in character. And people were like, what is this? Adults. Again, he's an adult creating content for adults at this time. This was not supposed to be for children.
Yeah, Pee-wee in its inception and its very early days was like not for kids. It was like,
no.
It was adult humor. It was,
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And
I mean, you could, like, watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure, you're like, oh, this is like childlike, but not for children, really.
Yeah.
But it was, but not. I don't know. It was like, it's like.
No, it's not for children, really. Yeah. I don't think, because in 1985, Warner Brothers, like, this is still, again, like, before. I mean, it's kind of in tandem with the with Pee-wee's Playhouse being developed, but like, Warner Brothers was like, hey, we want to make this into a movie. This is really a funny character, and so they did. Like, they gave him a job to write this movie, which ended up being Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And it's I don't think it's for kids at all. Rewatching it today, I'm like, I don't think kids would know these jokes. They're not getting the references. It's scary. Like kids could watch it and enjoy it.
We watched it as kids.
Yeah. But I enjoy it more like now.
It was like edgy when we were watching it, because it was like scary. It was like, if you could sit through the Large Marge part. Yeah. As a kid, you were like, you're good. You're a hero. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, a lot of people are like, that shit's too scary. I don't want to watch it. Like, whatever.
Do you think it looks, I still think it looks fun and it's nostalgic, but do you think it just looks janky to kids today? It's like claymation. They're like, what is this?
Yeah, no. But like, for us, like, who'd never really seen anything like that, this was like, this shit was like, and it was like nightmarish in ways that I don't know.
Ways that are real. I think it's like nightmarish in ways that are like real.
Well, okay, so this movie was directed by Tim Burton, and this was his very first movie he ever directed.
Full feature length
movie, like, for a big studio. Yeah. And so Tim Burton is a freak. So this movie's got some freaky aspects to it, you know?
It's so cool. Yeah, like, they brought Tim Burton on. I think there had already been a script. Like, Paul Reubens had started one, and I think he was working. He co-wrote it with Phil Hartman, Michael Varhol, and then some other writers. But then Tim Burton came on as the director, and he was like, I think we need to, like, zhuzh this. Yeah. And so after he came on, they had to revise the script, and Paul Reubens said in an interview once that they read Sid Field's 1979 book Screenplay, which is like the screenplay writing Bible, essentially. My friend loaned me her copy a few weeks ago, and I'm reading it. And so they read that book, and then they rewrote the script according to the advice, like, to a T. So he's quoted as saying, it's a 90-minute film. It's a 90-page script. On page 30, I lose my bike. On page 60, I find it. It's literally exactly what they said to do in the book. There should be like a MacGuffin kind of thing, something you're looking for. And I was like, okay, my bike. Like, he like literally just was like, follow just a Mad Lib of a script almost. And then just because I had to remember what this was, but in fiction, a MacGuffin is an object, device, or event that is necessary to the plot and the motivation of the characters, but insignificant, unimportant, or irrelevant in itself. So like, it is just a bike, but it is his whole world. And that's established very quickly. So it's
that
like,
is his reason for being in this the whole impetus for the movie. Yeah. So this movie, just everything about it is like, so there's so many layers to how like groundbreaking and original this movie was. Like, we got Tim Burton, first feature film, and then fucking Danny Elfman doing the music. Dude. If you know who Danny Elfman is, you should know who Danny Elfman is. He literally works with Tim Burton on every single movie. It's like he's written the scores for countless movies that are just like so recognizable and so amazing.
I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas is like a big one.
Yeah. I mean, other movies too that aren't even Tim Burton. Like, you just like, you hear his scores and you're like, oh, that's Danny Elfman. Like, Like Beetlejuice. Like,
all the vibe. Well, that is Tim Burton.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I'm just saying, like, you know,
right. Just big movies.
I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids he did.
I think he did the Tim Burton Batmans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, Danny Elfman. And at the time, he was just the front man of Oingo Boingo, which is like a kind of like an indie-ish band. Like it's
I love Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, they're very fun. Dead Man's Party. Listen to it.
So good.
But he didn't want to sign on to this because he'd only done he'd scored one other film, and it wasn't like a big movie, and it was kind of like a really small camp indie film that's like very much the style of the type of work he does, but he just didn't have a lot of experience yet. But then by the time they started filming, he'd already like written a score and had so many ideas and stuff, and so like he's like, I'll do it. And then like just finding this out, like I didn't know Tim Burton directed this film. I didn't know Danny Elfman scored it. Like you know, if I listened to it, maybe I would, but I just think of like all the gifts this film has given us and like what it has meant.
And
for generations of pop culture. It has inspired so many people. Like this film was the launching pad for Danny Elfman as a film composer and Tim Burton as a fucking film director. And like think of all the things we got beyond this film, and like it's so pivotal.
Yeah, everybody just like popped off after this, like. Yeah. And there's so many iconic moments in this movie. Oh my god. There's so many iconic lines. Like
yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's so much about it. It's just like amazing.
We already talked about the like Paging Mr. Herbin, and that's like a film within a film, and fucking James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild are like making cameos in it, and which is wild to me. Like they were very famous at the time. And it's also like, I guess the part where he's like saving all the pets in the pet store fire.
The snakes. He like actually
that's like real. He like actually hated snakes and passed out a couple times, like leading up to having to do that. Like he was so terrified of having to hold all the snakes. And this movie cost $7 million to make. It made $40 million. Like it was a big success for the studio, like beyond what they were thinking it would be. And it didn't have the best reviews at the time, but people didn't understand it, and look at its longevity at this point, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It just, and so from there, after this movie was made in 1985, Pee-wee's Playhouse, like they had the launch pad for that. It was like, oh, we need to like keep making money off this concept, and they did.
Can you make it for kids? Yeah. And he was like, all right.
Yeah, and he like kind of pivoted to making Pee-wee's Playhouse, and like that ran from like 1986 to 1990, and those were like very formative years, I think, for us. Like we were pretty little, and like that was like when we were very much like watching Saturday morning cartoons, and this was the shit, man. I don't know.
Yeah. I loved it. Who was your favorite character? Do you remember?
I loved Cherry, honestly.
Yeah. I know.
There's something very comforting about Cherry to me. The actual chair that was
that's
alive.
Talks.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. There's just like so much about it that, and like I'd have to watch it to like remember all the things that I like, you know.
I know, same. I would need to watch it. I remember Zombie, which I liked, but he always like really freaks me out. Yeah, but I was like wanted to watch more.
That was the thing about this, is that it was like nightmarish in a way.
Yeah,
like it was scary and kind of like intense, but it's like you liked it, you know. It was like edgy, and like as a kid you're like, ooh, is this like, am I allowed to like this?
Yeah. know? And it was like, I think it's because there's creepy stuff like Zombie, who is making like dick jokes. Like there's like a shoe size joke all the time because he's always asking for shoes for Cowboy Curtis or something. And Zombie's like, what size? And then Pee-wee tells him like it's like 12 double E or whatever. And he's like, oh, you know what they say about big shoes. And then the joke's like big feet. But Zombie, his face is always like that's not what I was talking about. And so it's like, like there's like a danger to a lot of these characters. But then there's the other characters like Cherry, who balance it out and make you feel safe again. It's kind of like this oscillating in between. I also really liked Terry, the pterodactyl that would like fly in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's so much I like don't remember about it. Like I kind of want to like put it on for Jack and see if he'd be into it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it'd be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, that's fun.
I think he'd be into it because he likes kind of weird stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think he'd be into it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was, and that show was, it lasted until, like you said, 1990, and then I don't know if we want to talk about some of the like legal trouble he got into, but he got into some, and it was after the show had already ended, but it was in like reruns, and so they just like ended those, but. After time, his career kind of it stalled a bit. And then he came back like, several, like maybe 10 years later or so. And he started doing some features and shows that were popular at the time. And he was in like bit parts in movies. And then he did more serious works. And he had like a whole acting career as Paul Reubens. Like, I remember seeing him and stuff and being like, wait, is that Pee-wee? Like,
yeah, seeing him in Blow.
Yes, exactly.
Like, blew my fucking mind.
I know.
Like,
I know.
That I still say the line where he like hands like Johnny Depp's character that huge bag of weed.
Yeah.
And they go, he and like the guy in the scene, they go, what the fuck is this? And he goes, it's your pot. I just think like the way he delivers the line, his like whole entire that character, it's like he's only on screen for he doesn't have that big of a role in the movie, but my God, he is like the one thing I remember from that movie, like that I quote from that movie.
Oh my God, like, I had that poster in my room, but I only ever saw the movie once and I thought it was fine, but I was just like, oh, the poster's sexy.
Yeah.
What a poser. I'm such a poser. But yeah, like and his show eventually came back in like 2006, Pee-wee's Playhouse specifically, on Adult Swim. They kind of teased it one night and people were like, what is this? Like, people weren't familiar, but then millennials obviously were watching and were like, wait, I remember this. And then they aired it for a while, like a year or so, and it was getting 1.5 million viewers a night. And like,
oh my God.
That's pretty good for what like Adult Swim was getting for fucking reruns of a show that was like very weird from 2 decades ago,
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And then in 2016 I remember watching this, but I don't remember it being like overwhelmingly wonderful, but he did a Pee-wee's Big Holiday on Netflix in 2016. And it was fun and nostalgic, and I think people liked it, and it did well. But like,
yeah, it just didn't have the same magic. But yeah,
it's not the same.
Yeah, and sadly he passed away at the end of July.
Yeah,
and he was 70 years old. He had cancer, and he had been battling cancer for I think over 6 years, and nobody knew about it. And it was just like, I think, like reading about all this, it's like he knew that he had potentially, like his cancer was serious. And when I was reading about like the celebration of life that was held for him at the Skirball Center in LA, and like a ton of like really just like eclectic celebrities came out to celebrate his life. And just like the way it was like set up, and all the like personal touches from like that were from him, like they played his favorite song, like and like people spoke and stuff, and it was just like very clear that like it was very much all intentional from him. And like even down to the statement that was issued on behalf of him, like when he passed away, it was just like he was apologizing to people for not being public with his like battle with cancer. And that to me was like very like that was like the gut punch where it was just like, oh, like,
yeah,
you know, he had been dealing with all this for so long, and it was just like, you know, he had this. It's like you want to be private with that kind of stuff sometimes, and you know, but I don't know. It was just like, it was just very sad to lose him, and just like lose like a part of, I think, our childhood, and you know, just like this collective feeling of I don't know, just this like huge piece of pop culture.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And just,
I mean, influential. I don't know.
I know. And think of just like how much joy like he brought people. And then like we were talking about, like what that film did was like a ripple effect in the careers of multiple people to continue joy, like, and continue bringing art and sharing their gifts. And it's just like, wow, someone that was able to do that. And you just, I think also it was hard finding that out from like celebrity friends of his who were sharing about him, was also just how kind he was and like how close he was to all of them, and still wasn't sharing it. Even, you know, in the last few months or whatever, it was like they'd invite him to dinner and he'd say he wasn't feeling good, and they'd be like, okay, well, like come next week or whatever, you know, and like he would just always not be feeling good. And
yeah,
that's sad, because
you don't
hard.
ever want to deal with those things alone. You want your you know, your people around you, but maybe that he just didn't want to bring anybody down, and like that was his way of dealing with it. And it's just that's what makes me, it's like heartbreaking in a lot of ways. But he was like best friends with Elvira, and just like, I don't know.
Oh my God, I bought an Elvira shirt the other day. It's so cool.
Elvira's another. Okay, this is like my personality when I was a kid.
Okay.
I was obsessed with B-52s.
Of course.
Like, obsessed. I had every single cassette tape, like fucking Wild Thing, Mesopotamia, like all of everything.
Yeah.
Pee-wee's Playhouse was like part of that, like that vibe.
Yeah.
And I loved Elvira and like all things spooky. Like, this was my personality when I was a child. What the fuck?
I know, but that's all the good stuff. You should definitely bring all of it back.
I'm going to, I think. I'm not holding back anymore.
No, you shouldn't. Also, I love the B-52s so much, and I appreciate them so much now that I'm getting older. I love Devo now too. Like, I thought they just had the one song.
Rips,
oh my God, dude, so good.
No.
I know. There's a Devo cover band that comes to Alex's bar sometimes. It's so fun.
No, me and my brother, we'd just we'd put on like Devo and just like drive around and go ape shit, like screaming.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Being idiots. And my parents
oh my
were like,
God.
Fuck up.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah, it's great. I feel like, all that stuff, you know, like even shows like The Crypt Keeper or whatever. What's that? Is that what it's called? The Crypt Keeper? Or does that have a different name?
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, I was like, not Are You Afraid of the Dark? Tales from the Crypt feels of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
It's like campy in that way.
Yeah. And like funny, but it could also be scary, and it's more leaning into the scary, you know. But it's still funny and weird, and just, I don't know. I love all that stuff so much. I'm really trying to get more into it.
There's a scene from an Elvira movie. I can't remember what it is. Where she's like getting chased through a graveyard, and she takes her stiletto off and she throws it at the guy, and it sticks in his head. And I just think about it. Just like runs through my head all the time.
Okay, I have to say this because I just was like connecting so many dots watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure earlier, but you know the part where he's riding the bike through the movie lot, like he's the nun and he steals it. That whole sequence is so wonderful. It's just like a wonderful set piece of the film, and he is approaching a car and they're filming a music video, and it's Twisted Sister. It's like Dee Snider, you know, on the hood of the car. And I turned to Pete and I'm like, oh my God, I remember like when I was older knowing who Twisted Sister was and being like, that's the guy from Twitch. Like, that's a real person. Whereas when I was a kid, I was like, what is this? Like this, what is this fake band, you know? And then it made me think of Wayne's World because they have that whole sequence in the second one with the car. And I was like, oh my God, like this is like, these things are just like such great tropes because they're always so delightful. And I just love these. I just love movies.
I mean, Wayne's World, the whole movie is like all, you know, vignettes of different movies. You know, basically. True. That's like, that movie is funny like that. So
true.
Love. I love it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's wonderful.
I just, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we didn't talk about, obviously. But this is all an appreciation episode of Paul Reubens.
Yeah.
And, you know, we loved him.
I also think that stuff happened. And we kind of talked about this offline, but it's like, it is what it is, you know, what he got in trouble for. I mean, he got in trouble for being in an adult theater and, you know, doing something. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't even look into it. But I remember when it happened and people were like so upset. And it's like, we had a conversation offline about like how people have such a hard time, like when especially figures that make content for kids are like adults in their off time. And it's so weird to me. Like,
well, and I think like him being in the adult theater was like one thing, and then there was like the other thing that happened where he got caught up in like this this kind of like raid. This happened like across Hollywood.
Oh yeah, this was years later.
This was so in like the early 90s. He was like caught in the theater, adult theater
in Sarasota, I think.
And then in 2001, he turned himself in after being accused of quote, possessing materials depicting children under the age of 18 engaged in sexual conduct. But there was an appeal, and his lawyer said police had raided his home and seized a, quote, historical collection of artwork, kitchen memorabilia, and adult erotica that included 30,000 items total that the offending material consisted of 24 vintage magazines and a single vintage film that were not defined in Los Angeles as obscene until 1989. When the statute Reubens was charged with violating became law. So, like, it's all very, like, there was so much material that they seasoned from, like stacks of memorabilia that he collected.
Yeah.
That, you know, and, you know, I think because he was gay, too, like, there was probably some, like, added layer of, like, you know, extra, like, I don't know, scrutiny that like people placed on him. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
There was like some discrimination in that way, I think.
Sure. Was he out?
I think so. I think it was just like something that, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. It was just like a thing that was like known probably like amongst people he was closest with and friends. So I think that was like an added layer of this whole thing where it was like, you know, and then it got extrapolated into like this thing where he was like, you know, and it was like not that. It was not like he had kiddie porn. It was like literally like old vintage photos that I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's weird. And it also, I think the larger context was that there was an actor that had been like that they were busting, and they were trying to like lump more people. I think they got a little excited and were like, who else could we sting?
It was like very like, you know, very much like a witch hunt kind of vibe with the like that he had gotten caught up in with like all these people getting like busted for weird, you know, and it was just like he was caught up in it, but it was like he wasn't even
one was looking to him for like for having anything until this like weird thing happened, and then they're just like, let's see what we could find at everyone's house. And you know what they found? The Rob Lowe sex tape, which he had. Which good for him. I mean, I don't know the context of that, but like I don't know if Rob Lowe
I didn't even know that Rob Lowe made a sex tape until
but I bet it's hot because it's probably when he was very hot.
He's still hot. I think.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. But like, you know, he was like probably in his like prime.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so yeah, that's all the like context on that. You can read more about that, but
yeah,
I think there's like this unfortunate like stain on his memory because of that, and I think people should, you know, get the full context of that. So
yeah.
Anyway, well, R.I.P. Paul Reubens. You made a huge impact. I mean, didn't even realize it at the time, and it's like one of those things where you don't realize until somebody is gone, like how big of a place they had in your memory and in your life. I don't know,
and in your heart.
So R.I.P.
Yeah,
may his memory be a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's all I got.
Cool.
Follow us on social medias at DTFU Podcast everywhere. Follow Nicole on TikTok.
Oh, yes, please do.
It's at Nicole Mackie, right?
At Nicole.Mackie. Because I originally had Nicole Mackie, and then I deleted TikTok because I'm too old. But then I was like, I think I want one again. And then I couldn't get it.
You played yourself.
I played myself. Yeah. I'm making lots of fun. I've been making some parodies. They're fun. I like have a little green screen set up over here. So I love it. Yeah. I can record something anytime I feel like it.
It's great. Yeah. Make some Pee-wee content maybe. I don't know.
Ooh, yeah. Maybe I will. Like where I'm in Pee-wee's Playhouse. Or maybe I'm like the genie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zombie.
Or like make a large Marge. I don't know.
That'd be fun.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
Make her like, you know how Disney does the like villains history, like revised history. I don't know.
Like her origin story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Anyway. Okay. Thanks you guys for watching and or listening or whatever you're doing. I don't know. And stay excellent to yourselves
and each other.
Bye.
Bye.
Remember to have your pets spayed and neutered.